Hello everyone, I'm the moderator for the day, Evie. Our event will start in 3 minutes, start at 8:05. Leave some time for those to join. And welcome. Hello everyone, we're gonna start our session in 1 minute. Be ready. Okay, hello everyone. In Vietnam and Taiwan. So I'm your host today, I'm Evie. And today I am super honored to have a stream with my friend and Jenny, which we both are in Taiwan, but we kind of live stream from a different place. Yeah. And today is all about Jenny is from the leading venture in Taiwan. Is from the one of the arm of the financial tycoon in Taiwan, Cathay Group. And I think I will let Jenny to introduce herself, her amazing background, and share a bit of her experience with us.
Okay, thank
Pass
you
to
for
you, Jenny.
introduction. Thank you, Yubi. Hi, everyone. I'm Jenny, and I am now working at Cathay Venture. And Cathay Venture is a venture arm under Cathay Financial Holding. For those who are in Taiwan, you may know with the logo, a big tree logo. We are the biggest financial institution in Taiwan, and the group also has life insurance and real estate entities. So at Cathay Venture, we invest in various industries and the different startup, and starting from hardware and semiconductor to healthcare, and currently I'm focusing more on software and those data-driven solutions. So a little bit of my background. I think I will talk about my story with my slides. So wait a second. Let me open my slide.
For those who are in Vietnam, actually, Cathay Life Insurance is in Vietnam too. If you were in Da Nang, their office is right in the riverside. So next time when you visit Da Nang, you can have a look, check for that big tree.
All right, can you see my screen, V?
Sure.
All right. So, okay, to start my speech, I want to start with this picture. So I think my whole life, because this speech, I would like to share a little bit of my story. So I think for myself, my life is full of variables. And the same cases in this era, like people facing a lot of uncertainties and a lot of variables comes in, and for those young people or young generation also, there are a lot of things unknown in the future. And yeah, so just have this picture as the opening of my speech, and I'll talk about my story here. So Jenny, me, my journey looks like this, really jumpy. I did my undergrad in Taiwan and majored in the non-technical degree in National Jiao Tong University, which is famous for technology. And the high-tech park is also just located beside of our campus. So I explored a lot of technology and started to think what I wanted to do since then. And I landed my first job at Micron, which is the largest semiconductor company in the world. And at that time, I just started my first job, like in the like very famous uh, famous path that people will pursue in Taiwan. As you may know, for those people in Vietnam or people in Taiwan, semiconductor is an industry with higher pay, higher salary, and a more stable job in Taiwan. So I started my journey there, and I work as a planner to manage the supply chain, to manage all the capacities and communicate with the outsourcing partners, our site manufacturers, and people in the whole Micron and enterprise. And at that time, I feel a little bit boring because basically my job was to make sure nothing is out of control. And I managed a very big Excel sheet to monitor the production every day. But that experience really enriched my my knowledge in supply chain, which I will mention later, which is a very important foundation for me to explore further, especially in the hardware industry. So for now, I want to pause a little bit. I want to add some note that I think my whole journey wasn't really a well-planned journey, as some people may think through and plan ahead what they want to do and what they are pursuing. But for me, I just like kind of follow my heart and explore along the way. So at Micron, I did my job, but I still keep exploring the opportunities in outside of the company. So that's why I entered my next job at the hardware startup, Rule-Based. So you can see on the right-hand side, what is the startup did. It's a hardware company which produced near-infrared coffee roaster, which is a very cool product. And I still remember when I first met the founder. I met him on the demo day in National Taiwan University, and I saw a cool machine, and the founder stand by the stand to introduce the machine. And it really makes me very curious. So I talked to the founder and figure out the product itself is amazing, but it's lacking kind of a go-to-market strategy and some sales and marketing strategy. So I figured out that I have the passion to see cool products grow and to see cool startup scale. So I decided to switch my job from a very stable and highly paid job in semiconductor industry to the hardware startup. And as the first business member in the startup, I did a lot of exploration, from how to sell, from knowing more about the coffee industry, which is very traditional in Asia. Like all those coffee roaster are like using a very traditional heating system, which is gas or the heated wind drum. But the products at 𝗘𝗧𝗹𝗸, it's a cutting edge technology. It's near infrared, which haven't done by other companies before. So my challenge at that time was to persuade our potential customer to give it a try. So starting from then, I did a lot of exploration to survey the industry and to think through how to utilize the resources to really promote the product. And also, I explore a lot of from the business model side, how to build the bigger scale customer pool. And all those challenges come to me, and I had a lot of passion in my mind, and I pivot a lot with the engineers and the founders. And at the end, I kind of successfully helped the company grow at a certain degree with stable customer base. And I also recruited some regional sales in Taiwan to promote the products, as well as building some strategic partners. And then I decided, okay, I wanted to learn more, and I want to solve those questions in my mind as regarding how to really scale up the company and accelerate the growth of the startups. So I decided to pursue my MBA at Rotman in Toronto. At Rotman, there's a program called Creative Destruction Lab, which is a early stage and deep tech accelerator for startups all over the world. It has several streams, including space, smart city, blockchain, all those cutting edge technologies. And as a business person, I needed to help the startup to build up the go-to-market strategy and to help those tech core company to find out some scenarios that can potentially be very profitable in the future. So that was my first time to get to really touch those different cutting edge technology and to think from the business perspectives, how to help those startups grow. And then I spent a summer at Vanguard. So you can see all my journey starting from semiconductor to hardware to coffee machines. And then to Vanguard. Vanguard is the largest ETF company in the state, and its major product ETF is basically a passive investment. So people put in their pension, putting their like pension fund or those retirement fund into Vanguard ETF, and it will use index to invest. And I entered Vanguard as a fintech strategist to help the organization figure out future technology trend and explore whether those technology can benefit Vanguard. And at that time, I did a research on the very hot topic now, which is the NFT topic. And I did the research on how to use those alternative assets to create a new product, financial product for Vanguard. And my experience at Vanguard really helped me to see through how large organizations do innovation. It's very different from startups. The pace is slower and the scope is larger. So you gotta persuade within the organization with different BUs to really map out how the innovation will benefit them in a very structured way. Instead of like in startups with a lean structure, you can try and narrow in a very short period, and you can just do a lot of pilot project at the same time. It's a very different mindset. And so yeah, that was also my first time to get into a very traditional financial institution. And then 2020, I came back to Taiwan mainly because of COVID. But I think that's also, I will mention later, I think COVID is also a very big turning point for me to get into the real venture capital world. So I started my first job in Taiwan, back to Taiwan at 104, which is the largest human resources management company in Taiwan. It provides B2B as well as B2C solutions for recruiting, training, and all those HR solutions. And I worked in a CVC, corporate venture capital arm under 104 to help the company find potential strategic partners and also good financial deals for the venture arm. So that was my experience at 104, and I did a lot of proof of concept project with the external partner to help the company explore whether it's a good business opportunity to gain more customers or to build a new business, leveraging the existing resources at 104. And then I switched to Cathay Venture. Cathay Venture is mainly a financial VC, which means the main goal is to find the startups, the deals with the best, with a better financial return. It's different from CVC. I mentioned at 104. The goal is different. So if you want to know more about the difference, between CVC and financial VC, feel free to ask me question later. So that's my story, and you can see my path is a combination of technology, business, startups, as well as traditional sector. All right, so I want to also mention about COVID-19 because it's really a big turning point for me, I believe for many people and startup as well. So you can see here, according to McKinsey, there are a lot of companies due to COVID-19, they embrace technology, accelerate the digitalization. So you can see COVID-19 is a pandemic, it's a bad thing, but for a lot of industry, it forced them to move forward. And as what I observed, I think a lot of company also take the time to rethink whether their business model is sustainable and whether they have the really competitive advantage over other competitors. So for me as well, I came back to Taiwan and started to learn more about Asian markets and also explore fintech and the digitalization solutions here in Asia. All right, so for COVID-19, as I mentioned, there are challenges and also opportunities. So on the right-hand side, you can see like what we are doing now is the online forum, right? So COVID-19 also accelerate a lot of online digitalized behavior. So people are forced or people are then transferred to online solutions and to utilize all those tools. And also the border and time zone distance, all those distance are shortened because of acceleration of all those digital tools. So for example, my job as a VC, I have to visit a lot of companies. And it will take me time to do the transportation to the company, as well as to plan ahead the visit, what I need to bring, what transportation tool I need to take, and to arrange a meeting with the startup. But during the work from home period, I can do a lot of online meetings, one back to back. So that's really changing the pace of my job. But of course, now we're all back to office. So thankfully, Taiwan is within very good control of COVID-19, and so things are back to normal. But what I want to mention is that how a big pandemic wave changed how people behave. And the picture on the left-hand side, this is an interesting news I saw online. What changed the e-scooter industry? So for those who don't know, Bird and Lime are the e-scooter startups in the States and in Europe, which allows users to use the shared e-scooter to transfer to different places. It's kind of like a shared bike, if you have seen that business in China. And I noticed a very interesting change to those companies. Pandemic should be very bad news for those transportation startup, but recently I see some of the governments in Europe and Canada, they started to embrace those e-scooters because it's allow people to transport with a more safe way with the social distance. So you cannot have two people or more on the same scooter. So those with those support from the government, those companies started to gain more orders and to be more sustainable with the government support. So that's something I noticed, just want to share with you. And the last picture here on the right-hand side, OMO, what does that mean? Online merge offline. So in Taiwan, there's a company called 91 App. It's also in our portfolio. And it provides online solutions for those retailers to interact with the consumers with online tools. So for the customer, it's easier to leave their personal record on the shops to help the staff understand their preference to do more targeted marketing. And for the brands that utilize those tools, it's easier for them to understand their customers' behavior and also to optimize their marketing and their campaign according to it. So online merge offline, it's an emerging trend for the retailing industry. And we started to see it popping up in Asia. A lot of the big brands and smaller D2C brands are starting to utilize, especially during COVID. Those companies found out the online solution is important for them to have better retention and to make better marketing campaign according to the customers' data. Okay, all right. So here I also want to share about some thoughts and some experience as a female investor. So this page, Women in VC, this is a website, a community created by many female VC. If you're interested, you can take a look. It has some statistics as well as some reports about the situation for women in the VC industry. So you can see the statistics here. As the statistics says, women are still a minority in the whole industry. You can see here 28% as GP and partner and 18% as associate. Of course, it may vary from countries to country. I think here in Taiwan, we have more balanced composition, but still overall, women are a minor group in the industry. What does that mean? I don't want to stereotyping how people see women investor. I think it really depends on the personality and how you behave. It's not just a gender issue, but as a women in venture capital world, as well as women in maybe startup or finance, we are the minority in the industry, then how can we utilize? I won't say it's a disadvantage, but how can we utilize our advantage? I will take myself for example. As a women investor, I think I can multitasking more than maybe many men that I observed. Don't get me wrong, I'm not like, again, I'm not doing stereotyping, but as what I observed, multitasking is very important in the VC world. So I want to also take the chance to share what I do, what's a typical VC day. So for today, for example, I went into the office and I checked all the emails and make phone calls with the portfolio company that has a fundraising plan recently, and also some potential deals that I am exploring. And so I need to make phone calls and emails with different parties at the same time. And then I also need to arrange some time to do the company visit, and also to wrap up the previous meeting, to keep the connection with some companies which may be too early for us, but we want to keep track of. So there are a lot of parties I need to get in touch with in the same day. And also I need to be focused sometimes if I need to do a proposal. And it sometimes stress me out. Like I can't keep my brain working for 24 hours, but I have to get things done. So I think as a Jenny, I don't want to like say it as a female investor, but as Jenny, as a lady in the venture world, I think multitasking skill really helped me to get things done, and to make sure I don't miss out important messages, things like that. And so I think for some people who may be very need to focus on the same thing at the same time, it may be challenging, but yeah, there's good and bad, pros and cons. So yeah, I just share my typical day with this traits, personal trait. And also I think as a Jenny, I am more empathetic to the startups, and it's rooted from the startup experience I had in the BD role. So I had to open up my ears to listen to the clients, to listen to other investors, to listen to some people, to get some reference, and also the startup itself, to really map out what's the real potential of the company, instead of making judgment immediately when I hear their pitch. So I think being empathetic and patient, sometimes it's contradicting the typical VC personal trait, which you need to be very fast paced. You need to make judgment really quick in order to filter the deals. But I think I take a different approach to really open up my ears and to absorb as much as information as possible, to really make sure that I get the sufficient information to evaluate the company. And last but not the least, I think as a minority in the venture industry, women can be very powerful if they collaborate with each other. So this page, I want to highlight a very good friend of mine and also a very great investor, Elisa in Taiwan. She hosted a lot of great panels and events. And this one, Female Inventor, is a very meaningful event, and it's still going on in Taiwan, which gathers all the female investors in Taiwan to discuss the challenges we faced and to encourage each other and to interact with other investors. So I think as a minority, sometimes you will push yourself more to gather with other people and to listen to other people and to learn from other people, and that can be very powerful. So those three traits are from my personal experience, which I think as a female investor is very beneficial. And some final thoughts about for people in the venture world and also for people who wanted to be investors. I think those are three key points I have for you if you are trying to get into this industry. And also, I think those are very, very important for myself as well. First one is to be authentic. So being an authentic self for me is very important because I think it's quite funny. Before I get into VC and get into financial industry, I was very like a techie person and very geek. I like technology, and I always think that people in finance are so formal and they're like sometimes very arrogant. Well, that's not true, but I was very I will feel nervous when I see those people, and I try to become them, like the typical financial people. But after I get into VC, I think this is not how things works. Like being a person that it's not yourself, it's not how you can make the best of yourself. So being authentic, like if you are an introvert, it's okay to be introvert. You can speak less, but you can like take time and take your pace to really digest things and to organize things. Be authentic. And also the second one is being value adding. So I tell myself whenever I meet startups or I have a talk with other people, I want to be value adding. For example, Cathay doesn't really invest in very early stages startup. For those who are doing prototyping and ideation, it may be too early for us, but I keep contact with those stages, startups in these stages. But I tell myself after meeting them, even though I cannot invest them at this moment, but I want to be value adding. So I will maybe refer them to other early stage ventures to see if they can provide help. Also, if the startups are trying to find resources, I want to become friend with them. So I will give them some advice or just introduce them to people I know that may be helpful. So I think it creates like a value system. People know, hey, Jenny helped me. Jenny is helpful, and they will also want to contribute. So I think that creates a really positive cycle. And the last thing is to be passionate. I think as a VC, most of the time we have to say no to the startups, and sometimes it's very frustrating. And because you may need to say no because your fund is not suitable for the startup, or many other reasons. But that may makes you very depressed or stressful, or frustrated. But just keep your passion to learn and to try in the venture world. And so I think being passionate is still important. And sometimes you may be driven by the KPIs, but it's still important that you know what you want and know what you need, and keep pursuing them. So I want to end my speech with this picture. This is my first time serving with some other investors in Yilan. And I was very nervous because I haven't served before. And this was my first time trying that. And just want to share to the audience here. If you want to do something or try something, just do it, and never stop learning. Okay, that's my speech, and thank you for listening.
Thank you, Jenny. That was an amazing journey you gave us. And actually, there's like a really vivid for your life. Actually, for those who never met Jenny, I think I'm the only one in this room who met her offline before. She's actually a very boutique person, and she's very soft and firm, as you heard her from the talking. But you can always see the grit, or you can see her like a never giving personality from the talk, and also from the career change, right? So I think I will start the conversation or start our chat from your career switch, because you actually, like me, I do it a lot too, because like we jump from industry to industry, and something you never learn, and or just like something like 100% new to you. And by the time you do the switch, do you have any trick can pick up quick you can share with the audience?
Okay, yeah. So fast learning, you want to discuss this, right? Like how to pick up all those domain knowledge. Okay, so as you heard, I switched from semiconductor to hardware startup in coffee industry, and then financial. It's a very different industry, and it was painful actually. So I remember when I first entering the semiconductor world, and my boss asked me to join the meeting the first day I got on board, and I was so frustrated because they use a lot of jargons that I don't understand at all, and also all those Excel sheets, the big models, I don't understand. But I think also in the coffee industry as well, like people are in the industry for decades, for many years. It's really painful that you need to do your job, but you cannot really understand, like even people are what people are talking about. But I think the trick here is just ask. And when you ask people, you will get some clue for like a little bit. You will get a little bit taste and some clue. And then when you ask another people, you'll get some other piece of that. So when you ask many people, then you can at least pretend that you know. So also in my job for my job as a VC, I think that's a very important trick. So I don't just ask help from my investor friends. I ask help for, well, ask help is sounds really not professional, but that is the thing, that when you don't know something, that you just ask for help and you want to learn. So so you ask people. Well, I don't just ask people in the industry. I ask people from like the relevant people. For example, when I take taxi, like we do a lot of deals. We explore a lot of deals in like transportation and delivery and all those platform economic business. So what I do is like for today, I ask the taxi driver. So I use Line Taxi today to do a company visit. And I asked the taxi driver, hey, how does Line Taxi charge you? And do you think that tool is helpful? What's the difference between Line Taxi and like Uber or like other fleet management tools or things like that? And like you get the clue, then you got the answer, and then you can verify next time when there's another like taxi startup, taxi managing startup, when they when they tell like something not so true, then you get some idea. So well, I think the most powerful trick for me is to ask people. And also you have to do your own homework. So now everyone get online to learn, and that's that's where you can learn, like when you have no people around and you know nothing about the industry, just like do search. And I remember when I started to look at a lot of like AI companies, especially NLP and natural language processing solutions, I learned a lot from the internet. Like now I can distinguish if the company is like telling bullshit and if the company really have the the entry barrier among other. So YouTube, you can learn, like, I mean, the really decent technology, not just a speech that tells you the industry trend. No, you have to learn deeper. So you can like pretend better that you know, and you can make a more precise judgment. So that's my trick. Hope that answers.
That's super cool. I think if I summarize it in one term, is be curious, right? You actually
Yes.
like to learn things, and even though you are not in that deal at that moment, but you just like try to collect or know new thing as much as possible in whatever setting you are. And I think there is one key thing if you want to be a VC, because you always get involved with the various deal, right? So sometimes you don't only focus on like fintech or just like a logistic tech. You actually get an opportunity to visit all kind of deal in different company, different stage, different country. So if you are not curious enough, then sometimes you'll find it you might not have the sufficient information to process a deal at that moment. So just like collect the information as much as you can. I think it's super key. So let's move on to your experience on the fintech, right? But by the time you actually said it, when you jump into the finance industry, that there are people are super strict, and just, it seems they are all suited up, look very professional, quote unquote. And we actually talk about it offline, saying that I'm not so typical VC person, and so it's not Jenny. So I would say that, can you share us more as a non-typical person in the very typical world? Do you actually pretend, or is there anything you want to highlight as the very gentle and the firm person to deal with them? Have you met any challenge, or how you navigate through this kind of setting?
Well, I think that's like personal change management issue. Like for me to switch from technology space to financial space, um, my tactics is to just to observe them at first, and then to see how you can initial conversation that's understandable for those people, because I think being authentic, as I mentioned, is important, but it's also important that your the people that's talking to you or having conversation with you can understand what you're talking about. So, for example, I think the way of communication is very different from technology space to financial space. Like technology space, you have to be very precise, and then sometimes a typo is okay, right? Yeah, and but for financial space, you cannot have a typo for the currency, right? That makes a big difference. And you have to use different language to talk to people in different space. And as for me, a not so typical financial professional, um, I think I understand more about the how the engineers are talk how they talk, the engineer for the engineers. And also I think that's important for me to uh, not only understand and to dig out what may be the treasure for the startup. Like sometimes I think people from like pure technology background, they may not have of course there are exceptions, but they may not be so good at presentations, or like they don't know, like they are very good, they just think, okay, we're providing a solution, but they may not know that the solutions or the technology itself has more potential. So that's something I learned during my MBA in the creative destruction lab. So all those founders are in the deep tech world, and they know their industry, they know their expertise, but they don't know like for the business world, for the profitability perspectives. So as a not so typical financial professional, I think I am like a bridge to bridge the technology to the business world. And yeah, so I think that's a um, advantage for me, although it's very again painful, and I have to pretend that I'm a very professional VC. I know all those financial stuff, but yeah, I mean, like you're Jenny, and then people recognize you. Okay, you're a VC, but I think you're a little bit different. Sometimes I got the feedback from the startup, and I like it.
Yeah, I actually we talk about that this topic offline, right? So sometimes I compare with a very technical, financial, technical background person, we are more human than them, and we actually can talk in the same language as the founder. Then how you, but do you find it difficult for you to translate those language to in the fund inside your colleague, because you're actually working in a very typical traditional financial arm, right? So how you kind of like do this kind of interpretation inside, or do you find a challenge to do that?
Very challenging. So, when I started the VC job, actually many times I think I look stupid. Like the way you present, it's just not look. It looks not so professional compared to others, and but well, as a like a junior professional, it's okay to make mistakes, and but you have to learn from that. People will tolerate you for a little bit, but you gotta learn fast and pick up all those key points. So I think like I said, like my life is full of variables, but I think my advantage is like I embrace variables, but and I try to find fine tune my functions, so I can keep survive. Yeah.
That's super inspiring because actually, for those who ever met Jenny, you know that's like she's so not typical, and while she been keep evolving, and I mean finding a balance between like you are in Rome being a Romanian, but just like other than that, you actually still keep it you being authentic you, right? So that is very important. As she said earlier, you cannot pretend to be someone else, but I think it's important to show your advantage and in the fun because people need to be very diverse and everyone need to like justify for their own idea and try to convince the boss because there's why they hire us, right? Just like because want to hear like a very different story. Okay, and let's move on to like the deal. Actually, you are looking with a various kind of deal and from in a various country. And can you share with us is that when you look at, for example, like the fintech deal, how you what is your comment on this kind of like a new business model or like this kind of like a digital transformation thing bring to the fintech industry?
Okay, so for fintech, it's a very different space. It's highly regulated, and uh, it varies from countries to countries. So it's not like a product-driven company that you can just sell if you have a very good product with a universal demand. It's different. So for fintech, especially here in Taiwan, it's highly regulated. I would say it's not so easy to be a standalone startup with, by yourself. You gotta find out resources and how you can collaborate with those big financial institutions. And so for Taiwan, the case is really like how you can collaborate with big players because they have the most of the coverage, and they acquire most of the users already here, and it's a very like highly regulated industry here in Taiwan. And for Southeast Asia, also I discussed with you last time. I think in Southeast Asia the story is different. Like in Indonesia, you know, the financial wellness is not so fully satisfied yet. So there are a lot of financial gap. Like people living in countryside, they may not even have a banking account to do all those financial services and to do things with the bank. But there are therefore a lot of opportunities for those fintech to solve problems in different aspects to accelerate financial wellness. So I think in the fintech space, it's really important to understand like what environment are you in and what resource you may need. For example, if you're in Southeast Asia, then how do you approach to your potential users? Who are your users, and how can you approach them? Is it through a direct sell, or is it through strategic partners? All those strategies are very important for startups to scale. Also, I think the policy also makes a lot of difference. For some of the countries, the governments are super supportive and open. Then, like in Singapore, there are a lot of fintech company there, because the government there is very supportive. As opposed to some countries, the government may be like really like they have very restrict, very it's very highly regulated, and so just really hard to break through those barriers. So all those environment and the resources are important to take into consideration. Yeah, and for cross-border expansion, I think sometimes we see startups originated in a country, they want to expand to other countries. The challenge they may have is they don't really know that well. It's like expansion is not like, okay, I know someone, I have a partner there, then you can do the expansion. It's not that. So again, I think you gotta be empathetic. I want to use the word empathetic. You need to learn how your user behave, how your users are doing things without you at this moment. So you can really understand how painful it is and how valuable your business may be, um, to when you want to enter to that market. So that's some thoughts, and what I observed.
For those who want to pitch it to Jenny in the future, that do take a note that she actually cares about that voice of customer, right? And I think we actually talk about this offline, is that it's really important for you. I think especially for lots of tech founder, right? So just like they actually think that, yeah, our solution is great, or yeah, this work, but they never imagine that who use their solution in what scenario, right? So people kind of have this kind of mindset as like, yeah, I build it up and then people will use it because it's just that good. But actually most of the time, as you said, they don't know actually in what scenario they will use this solution, then, or maybe your design may not even fit for their local custom, right? It's not their life in their lifestyle in lots of different way. For example, like the e-scooter you shared earlier might not work in Vietnam because I think most every Vietnamese might have one motorbike for themselves already. So it's just like it's definitely a different story. So that is
Yeah.
very important that other than you get a local partner or just like someone super powerful in that country, that do you actually have a plan? Do you know who you are talking to, who can be your target customer, and you really solve the solution, solve the problem for them, and it is really really important. Okay. And next, actually, you're looking for some Southeast Asian deal. And just like, can you actually share with us what is your perspective on, uh, in general, for seeing the growth of Southeast Asian venture capital market?
Okay, yeah, I think Southeast Asia is, I think in recent years, a very sexy topic for VCs because of the population growth and all those digitalization acceleration, and also the use of cell phone. And I think that really changes people's behavior there, and a lot of like traditional sectors are transforming a lot. And I think um, it's like you may take the example from other country to see how they gone through those transformation. And for Southeast Asia, I think that that like as a VC, that's not something I learned recently. In Taiwan, we are not so when we are not so familiar with the market, we may think Southeast Asia is a whole market. like, okay, that's Southeast Asia, but actually that's very different. Like Thailand, Indonesia, Vietnam, they are so very different. So the recent deals I am looking at, like some of the D2C brand, because the willingness to pay and the purchasing power is growing recently. So for a lot of the middle class and young generation, they are trying to find those new brands and to want to have more variety of options. So like those D2C brand and a lot of like delivery services are like popping up a lot in Southeast Asia market. Also, there are some cool business model like ghost kitchen, and for ghost kitchen, for those who may not be so familiar with that, that means that you have the brands or the food services, they don't need to use their own kitchen to produce food. They can utilize a ghost kitchen, which is maybe shared with various brands or located in in different places. You don't need to own the kitchen to produce the food. So the cloud kitchen is also something like really cool and new. Also, it's leveraging um, the popularity of food delivery service as well. So I think all those new behaviors generated by the cell phone usage and the emerging middle class population, all those are the key drive for the growth in the Southeast Asia. And also due to COVID, as I mentioned, it accelerates some online services like digital health. And like I think those kind of business models are quite sexy for VCs, but also very competitive. Sometimes I think the challenge for foreign VC as opposed to local ones to evaluate those startups is there might be some hidden challenge or like the difference of consumer behavior that we don't know. So yeah, so overall the market itself is sexy. It's very highly potential, but it also has a lot of risk. So that's why we need to do a lot of references. And yeah, that's
Yeah,
some
that's a
comment
small
I have.
trick for those in Southeast Asia who want to pitch to Jenny. Actually, that would be always nice to have some a local VC invest in you, right? And when you pitch to the another VC, it's always great that you tell them, hey, blah 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 is ABC is my investor, and feel free to connect them if you have any question. Because I think it's fair for VC to cross reference to other VC who is interested or who already invest in you. As Jenny shared earlier, it's very difficult for us to do due diligence now, and I mean in the field due diligence. So it's a really important we have someone in the field actually can help us and partner with us. Okay, so now I think we can start our Q&A session actually. Jenny, we have some questions, so I will invite the audience to ask the question to you directly. The first one will be Ninh. If I pronounce your name wrong, please forgive me. I only have 3 hours of Vietnamese. So are you there?
Yes.
Mm,
Yes, my name is Nhi.
Nhi.
Thanks. Okay. So thank you so much, Jenny. Thanks, AB, for holding this section. Yeah, it's very inspiring for me. So I have a questions like for Jenny, as a woman and also from the VC side. How do you think about investing in ESG or women in power industry like med service or bioenergy sector like biofuels? Yeah, I really want to hear about you and also about like Cathay also. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks a lot.
Okay. Okay, I see. So yeah, ESG is a very hot topic these days. I will say for ESG, there are different VCs doing different things and they have maybe different investment hypothesis and investment principles. And for Cathay, the whole group is of course very highly value ESG, and the group itself is really um, doing things that comply with the ESG principles. And as for the investment part, I think ESG is a bonus. So all of our proposals, we are asked to add a page that elaborates how the company fit in the ESG with different criteria. We have to make sure that the company we invest in is not doing harm to the environment and society. So that's important that we check out. As for how it add value to the company, I think for the monetary aspects, it may not be directly shown on the financial forecast. It won't add a line of ESG. Okay, 10 points, and but I think it's embedded value that we see for the startup. I remember there's a startup that we look at that's trying to transform the supply chain of the traditional grocery supply chain, like vegetables or meat, things like that. And I visited the company with like senior people, and the first question he asked is, okay, if you are trying to transform the supply chain, will those traditional workers lose their job? So this is not directly relevant to the financial return of the company for us as an investor, but that's an important question we want to ask whenever we see a new business model or see a new product. If the company is doing harm to the environment, I think it won't be so persuasive that the company can be sustainable. And also the whole environment is embracing ESG a lot. So if you're producing a product that's creating a lot of pollutants, then you will be punished. Like you will like have higher tax or so to be able to produce that in long term. So all those will come back as in a form of a financial return. So so to sum up my answer is ESG may not be seen directly in the financials, but I believe that's a very important and important components for VC to consider to make sure the company is sustainable and to make sure it's a good business to stay in the market for a long term. Yeah,
I think that in nowadays you can only do good than do well, because all the consumer actually vote with their purchasing, right? So just like it doesn't matter you are B2B or B2C, people actually value how much you care about this kind of ESG thing with your solution or your product, which means that actually, as Jenny said, if like we don't see it kind of as a criteria, but we kind of take it as a default already. And I think in general, in the long run, there will be more like this, right?
yeah.
Okay. Next will be by a founder, actually. Charlie, is passed to you. Yeah, you can
Hello.
talk now.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Actually, I have a question for Jenny from Cathay Investment. That is, what the decision making process like Cathay Investment will do, and usually how much the range you invest, and how long the decision making from the first one associated to the eventually investment, the how long will take,
Okay.
and something like that. Yes.
Okay. So I guess I can do more introduction for Cathay Venture here and for those who are interested in pitching to us. Okay, so for Cathay, our decision making process it's not depends on when we meet a startup. It really depends on if they are suitable for us in terms of stages or the business type. So after the first interaction with the company, if they fit us in terms of stage and the business type, we will start to do NDA to get more information from the company. And then after gathering those data, we will decide whether to proceed further. And if it's so, then we will start to do proposals. And it takes, depends on stages. If it's earlier stages, it will take longer because oftentimes they don't have sufficient information and we have to figure out or we have to communicate with the startups to get more. And if it's later stage, sometimes it takes like a month or a month or a bit longer. But if it's like early stages, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 months, depends. And as for the stage that we invest, we don't really invest in like super early stage. Like if the companies are still in the researching or prototyping stage, and it may be too early for us. Typically, we invest from pre-A, meaning that we can see some proof of business, and or the company we can see the break-even point is nearby. Sometimes it's after revenue, so it's fair. It's comparatively mature stages that we invest. And what else? And so it's not a matter of when we meet and when is the first interaction. It really depends on if the company is suitable for us. And for Cathay, we're quite agnostic. So I mentioned that we invest in hardware, software, healthcare, and mostly in Asia region. The reason is that we wanted to do deeper due diligence, including sometimes including a company visit if it's a manufacturing company or if it's a like a physical product, that we want to really make sure that it's the same as we thought. So that also influence the timeline, the whole length of our decision-making process. Yeah.
Did you mention the ticket size?
Oh yeah, ticket size. Yeah. So for ticket size, we invest in around $1 to $2 million US dollar. Yeah, and we invest mostly as a follow investor, meaning that if the company has a strategic investor that we can follow, that's the best way that we engage to the round of fundraising. If it's if it doesn't really have a lead investor, then we will have to find the strategic reasons, or we have to have some very strong support to convince the committee that we have to be a lead. But that's a rare case.
Got it. Got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question, Charlie. If you have any question for Jenny, well, we can talk offline afterward. And
Yeah.
next one will be Michael.
Sorry, can I wait for a moment? So sorry.
I'm sorry, you need a couple more minutes?
Yes, sorry. Yeah.
Sure, no worries. Yeah, while we're waiting, actually, Jenny, just like, do you invest more deal locally, or you actually getting more aggressive on the Southeast Asian deal now?
Okay, again, due to COVID, it's hard for us to do traveling. So we do more locally recently, but we still keep an eye on the Southeast Asian market. And from time to time, I will still call those companies that have a good progress, that whether it's a company that we have been tracing, or it's a new company. So I would say due to COVID, it's harder to do due diligence, but we still want to explore the region.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I agree. Just like, I think at the moment, right? So for those who want to go to Southeast Asia are all in the pending mood too, actually. So if you want to go and you do have a plan and want to raise, it's a good time to cook it slowly, but not aggressively, I guess. So just like prove yourself in Taiwan first. I think that would be good to convince a local investor that, hey, I actually can do good in locally, and I want to expand to this Southeast Asia market because A, B, C, D, E, and maybe you can have their support. Okay, Michael, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. So the question would be, I think in relation to COVID is how has it affected the VC sector, especially around fundraising, and perhaps like what startups or trends are VCs identifying that could improve the value of their portfolio. I'm talking.
Sorry, it's not so clear. What's your last sentence?
What trends or startups do VCs identify that could improve the value of their portfolio? I mean, is there any companies out there that is that you feel has stand out, has survived this pandemic, and even thrive on it, right on it?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I see. So yeah, of course, the pandemic impact a lot on our portfolios, but there are some portfolio, I think they react fast, and some portfolio benefited from the pandemic actually. So as I mentioned, the 91 app, that's the online solutions for the retailers. That is one company that actually outperformed during the pandemic. And some of the companies that really struggle, but they react fast and survive well, like traveling startup, which you can imagine it. The traveling industry is very highly impacted by COVID, but they then transform from the cross-border traveling to a domestic traveling, and they use the chance to gather more strategic partners domestically, and have an in-depth travel products for the customers inside of the nation. And so I will say pandemic is something inevitable for the startup to make reaction and to pivot to change their way of doing business. But it also opens up some potential that the startup may not think about before. And also, I will say it sometimes also provides some a good pause for the company and its potential partners, because like if it's in a hot season for traveling industry, it's really hard for the some of the travel startups to talk to the partners they or the clients. They're too busy making money. They don't have time to to connect with you or to discuss further. But during the pandemic, interestingly, I see some interesting conversations started, and the some of the companies started to transform and to find out the new potential. And also, I think health is also a very hot topic during the pandemic. And like in Taiwan, we were not allowed to see the doctor online, but during the pandemic, in many countries now, and also Taiwan, more and more digital health solutions are popping up, and the policy tend to be more friendly to those startups. So those are some opportunities that I observe, whether in the in our portfolio or not. I think those are challenges, but also opportunities.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jenny. Actually, that's super insightful. I think it's time to seize the opportunity, right? So when you see the challenge, instead of just thinking about, yeah, I would just like hold tight and hold my own model and just wait for it's gone. Actually, just like always think about how can you better use the time and the opportunity to pivot or evolve. Okay, so thank you for sharing. That's been very insightful session. So now every audience, please turn on your camera. It's a picture time. I will leave my colleague time to take the picture. Tam, over to you.
Yeah, sure. So please, everyone, turn on your camera. We will have some time to get you on the screen. Okay. So I can see. Okay, so a few more seconds for some other beautiful face to turn on your camera. Okay, so let's give us a very cheerful smile. And 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Another one. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you guys.
Oh, good. Okay, okie dokie. So now is the time to wrap up our session. Please, actually, we would definitely love your feedback. So please leave some feedback via the link on the chat. And let me remind you that we do have a next session on the 7th of October. And if you haven't followed us, or just like from the Facebook on our page, please follow us. And just like you can see all the update or all the information from there. And please register for the next session too. So yeah, on the 7th, I will talk with Michelle on the Quest Venture from Singapore. So, okay, if you have any further questions, that you can contact us or me, myself, or my team member. And I will thank all of you for your participation. Thanks, Jenny, especially for the super amazing night. And I will see you guys soon. Thank you. Have a good night there.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Jenny.
you.
Thank
Ciao,
you.
ciao.
Yeah, awesome sessions today.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye, 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 bye.